Stephanie, how are you doing?
Great. How are you doing?
We matching?
I know, it's so wonderful to see you in our matching pink.
People are going to think that we planned this.
We did though, didn't we?
Did we not?
Oh, we're not telling everybody.
Maybe our sisters have planned it.
Exactly.
Yeah. How are you anyway?
Great. It's so
nice to
wonderful to
see
be
you.
here.
Yeah.
Can't believe we're here at Unleashed in Las Vegas.
Last time we saw each other, you had just taken the role.
It's true.
How long ago was that?
3 years.
No, it wasn't 3 years ago.
Yes, it's a long time.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
I know.
I was going to say like 2. But I missed a whole year.
It's wild.
How have things been?
Great. It's really great. Yeah. You know, it's interesting when you take on a new big job.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, that first year, you know, it's really like, all right, I need to immediately learn and assess and get in there. The second one, you're like, okay, I've got this, but you don't. And then now I'm like, all right, now let's do this. Let's do this together. And it's exciting.
Do you still have like is there like still the imposter syndrome a little bit?
I think a little bit different because now there's still the appreciation and humility, especially here when I'm here.
I think you always have to have that, to be honest.
Oh, you have to, any job.
Any
but
job,
it's still
yeah,
like the world of HR is so very big.
Yeah.
But now I feel like from a leadership perspective, I feel less of the imposter syndrome because I'm kind of doing things in my way with my team. And that's really cool.
Yeah. So obviously you're the CHRO, L'Oreal USA.
Yes.
You also do some more things.
So many things.
Yeah. Tell everyone a little bit more about that.
Well, I'm a proud mom of 2 young sons.
Mm-hmm.
I used to be a professor at FIT at the Fashion Institute in New York. Now I'm on the board, and so I just guest lecture, but it's
really
cool.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's special to me. And I wrote a book, which we discussed last time we were together, called Carry Strong: An Empowered Approach Navigating Pregnancy and Work.
Yeah,
which is about the power and challenge of working motherhood.
How's that made you feel with all of the reactions and feedback that you've got? Because even in my circle of friends, the book comes up. How's that make you feel?
It's so cool. I mean, it's May, so it's like the month of mothers. And so I always have this like really cool renewed sense of appreciation. And even I was telling my team yesterday, you know, it's like Happy Mother's Day to people who are mothers aspiring to be someday and mother figures.
Yeah.
And it's been really cool to be part of that. But I love the in the wild, like when people will come up to me and be like, wait a second, this is
freak you out a little bit.
I love it.
You love it.
It's cool.
Sometimes like I've had this over the last.
Someone reading it on a train.
No way.
I interrupted them.
Did you?
Yeah.
I would do like, do I interrupt them? What's their reaction?
They were like, really? That's really cool.
This
They was
is
like,
you.
do you want me to sign it? Like, is that weird?
Is that weird? I'm trying to sign your book.
Yeah, can I reach over?
Like, I just so happen to have a pen.
I know. You know, it's like you have no idea how happy it makes me to see someone reading this.
Wow.
And they were like, it's pretty good. I'm like, well, I'll take it.
It's pretty good. Imagine if they were like, this is terrible.
Well, you know, I think they were only a couple pages in. So let's hope it got better.
What's top of mind for you right now?
You know, I feel like what's interesting, and I'm speaking later this afternoon.
Yeah.
And I know that, you know, both of us are very pragmatic optimists, but it's a tough world. There's so much. We've gone from this world of the VUCA world and the volatile, uncertain to now I'm sure you've heard this word, this BANI environment, brittle and anxious and nonlinear and incomprehensible. And the combination of those external VUCA factors plus this kind of internal pressure, it makes people tense. And that's really tough because right now you have this combination of the macro environment, but also technology and skills that it's all going so fast, but our careers are super long. And so I don't know, it's an interesting, you really need to be thoughtful about how you're approaching both the short term, the midterm, and also trying to keep a vision for the future amongst a lot of change and providing, I keep going back to calling it terra firma, especially for my teammates.
I like that.
Like what is our terra firma, our values? But also, what are the things we're still going to take the risks, the projects, the initiatives for the future that it's okay. But you have to have that balance, like that firm footing, I think right now is really important.
I know you look at this through something called the magic triangle.
Oh, yes.
Talk about that a little
Yeah.
bit.
So the magic triangle, I think is so important, especially as HR professionals. You can't do this alone. You know, even in the book, I say you can do it all, not at the same time, not alone. It's the same for HR. And I think for me coming in as a business leader, to being a business partner through HR, you have HR, you have employees, and you have people managers, or even just people within the business, right? That relationship between HR and individual employees always exists.
Yeah.
You know, responsibility for their upskilling through our shared services, through rewards programs, and by the way, just coaching and development, which is so key. Then you have HR support to people managers, how we help you, look at your organizational structures or your own leadership development, think about your team and the complexity or project management and change management. But one of the most important relationships is that between the employee or the teammate and their people manager.
Yeah.
And that happens way more without us than it does with us.
100%.
And so for me, I've been really focused with the team on, yes, how we can be stronger HR partners directly to employees and to those people managers to make them more powerful. But that independent line, the more that can happen without us,
Yeah.
the better. And that's it. That's how we become really that unlock for the teams.
Yeah. What does it look like in a practical sense? Because I think now more than ever, our managers are just overwhelmed, to put it
100%.
politely.
Yeah, I think, and so is HR, and so are employees. So the whole triangle
Yeah, everyone
needs
is. Yeah.
each other.
Yeah.
So practically, one example that we've looked at has been onboarding. So you take, instead of the entire employee journey, and you're like, okay, how do we apply the triangle to the journey? It's too big. It's like boiling the ocean instead of trying to focus on these like boiling pots, as
Yeah.
we call them. So if we think about onboarding, if you think that it's all of HR's responsibility, things are going to get lost. And
Yeah.
it's going to happen at the beginning, and then you're going to lose someone after 3 months or 6 months or a year or whatever. If you put it all on the employee, that's pretty intense too, to have someone that, is joining new to the organization, that you're saying, all right, here's all the things that you have to do within your first few days. Or if you put that all on the manager's like, well, I've had this job empty for months. I need to get going on the project work. I need them to get up to speed. So it's actually, it's very tactical, but it's a really powerful moment that if you align on who does what, and it's really clear handoffs.
Yeah.
Like I almost think of it as like, when you're running a track race and you're handing off the baton. It doesn't have to be hand holding,
It's true.
but you have to make sure there's clear handoffs. And that's
Yeah.
one thing we applied this to. And I think we were able to make it feel a lighter lift for the manager, but a better, overall experience for the employee. The employee has the right level of engagement, and HR knows clearly what they have to do instead of kind of filling in the gaps. So you get more consistency. And you also just get a better overall retention. I mean, we had a problem, and now we have this amazing, pretty powerful retention within the first year of our employee lifecycle.
What's the feedback been from managers?
I think for them, it's helped to level the playing field, because some people would be like, oh my God, I had the best experience ever, right? And then they
They're like,
cross
"Well,"
board and they
they're
move
like-
to another team,
Yeah.
and then it's like disappointing. Or other people, they were putting in such an above and beyond effort to kind of compensate for what they thought should be done,
Yeah.
that I think it's just helped to say, oh, cool, okay, there's a process to this. There's expectations, and this is what the employee is doing with transparency. This is what HR is doing with transparency, and this is my job. Instead of making it like something you have to do, it's actually something you get to do, and you know that it's worth it, which
Yeah.
I think is powerful.
Something we haven't spoken about in the past, but it's just come up in the conversations, is around HR's own brand,
Oh yeah.
right? And obviously, given your background and experience, I would love to understand how you've been 3 years in, how your experiences it's influenced the way in which you view your brand, your employee brand, your personal brand,
Yeah.
and why is that important?
Oh, I think it's so important. When I first started, I remember we wanted to have, and I think we might have talked about this on the podcast. We wanted to have this HR event. We were launching our shared services. We were a little bit in a different model. We were very, very proximate to our employees and white glove, and still are, but we needed some of that unlock that happens with our shared services. Our best team, we call them, business expertise, services, and technologies. They're awesome. Shout out to my besties.
That's the marketing right there.
So
of course, that's
it's
what
true,
it's called.
but it's different, right?
But people
Because
remember it as well.
instead of saying, oh, it's shared services, it's the best team, and they're experts, and they are, and they're awesome.
I love that, by the
Hello
way.
in Tampa.
People are going to steal that from you.
It's true. Go for it, please. I didn't come up with it, but I give full credit to the team that did. So, with thinking about that, we needed to introduce these things in a way that wasn't just HR in isolation. So instead, we created what we called the People Manager Town Hall. And we had business leaders speak about the role and their importance in traditional HR topics, about career pathing and about talent assessment. And it's much more powerful when it comes from someone else, frankly,
Yeah.
but with HR and how we guide that conversation. And I think, biggest for me in terms of branding or criticality to HR is communication skills,
Yeah.
and not in isolation, because so many
What do you mean by that?
organizations, so many organizations, including our own, we have a really powerful EVP. Like we have
Yeah.
amazing rewards, we have high talent mobility, we have 37 brands, so we can have this really cool dynamic internal career at a big company with resources and awesome people. But those are all in these little different pieces, even within HR. So to have a holistic EVP where you propose that to employees, to be both an internal employer of choice and be like, wow, this is awesome. This is what I have for myself and for my teammates. but also in terms of employer branding and reputation, it all existed. So I encourage, especially HR professionals, like
Yeah.
take a pause, take stock of all the awesome stuff you're doing, but think about how you're going to put it together because the employee can't do that. It's just like when you're shopping and you're looking for all the products on the shelf, like help to guide a little bit the
Yeah.
strength of your own EVP. That's very dynamic based on where you are in your life. So you
Yeah.
want to make it accessible.
I've even had really strange. I've had employees in the past, friends that have said, Chris, I actually heard an interview with my CHRO and learned more about my business in your podcast than I knew about. And I was like, wow, like, and I had another example where a CHRO called me and said, you never guess what happened, Chris. And I was like, what? Our CMO I just interviewed for the role, like there's interviewing for a CMO. She listened to our episode and said, that's the kind of company I want to work for.
I love that.
And applied for the role. And she said, I couldn't believe it.
Cool.
And that's sort of the power of sort of telling the story. And those conversations were also vulnerable. It wasn't also like we're perfect, we've got everything right. That's also, you need to build trusts too.
And you have to be a team. I think one of the things too, when I joined, it was like so much in service of. But by the way, I have an amazing HR team. Those are also employees that I want to have an awesome experience.
Yeah.
And they have their own dynamic career paths. And we also, we have our own corporate values, but what are the values of our team? And of course, they're like things that we can all repeat every single time. So it's energy. We want to be a net positive energy team, both for others, but
I love
for
that.
ourselves.
It's so simple as well, that one.
Oh yeah, it's energy, energy positive. You don't want to go into a meeting and feel depleted. Like, the second is ease. So how can we create ease in our team? Because sometimes we're dealing with really tough things, but also how do we create ease for employees? Whether you're going through something personally challenging or a business challenge, like that ease is really important. And it's not something you can put your finger on and say, oh, let's do these 5 things to create ease, but it does give a language. The next is expertise, because I very much believe in the expertise of HR. And I think that's really important as well. Like for me, again, super humbling. Like, okay.
It's constantly evolving.
Oh my gosh.
Now more than ever, I feel like,
and understanding the technicality, not having to be in the weeds, but being like, okay, what are the details of the pension I need to be aware of in order to help guide the EVP, the organization? And the last, which is so key, is if you do that as an unlock, you become an organization of excellence. And you can have your own, I love this. I learned this the other day, giving feedback. You say, what makes you great is, what would make you even greater is.
I like that.
And so for my
the way
team,
you say it is very
I'm like, all right, guys. If
that's
we
such a good way of delivering it. That's
it's nice. It's a little American. But
I like it. I appreciate it.
But, all right. So if we can be energy net positive, not every day, but on the regular.
Yeah.
We can create ease for ourselves within the team. And also if we can have ease within each other, for our business leaders, you can have tough conversations by having that. Expertise, we've got to upskill constantly. And we also need to make sure we have that expertise in the team. And that's okay. That's a focus, which is strength within different functions. But then the last one, the excellence, that's where we drive the business, outpace it, and help to really add value and value creation.
How many was that? Is it the 4 E's?
Yeah, 4 E's.
The 4 E's, of course.
I have 2 other E's, but then it became too many E's, and then the marketer got
I feel like 4 is like you can't go
exactly.
Free,
entrepreneurship, elevation.
You can go down a rabbit hole.
4 is good.
The 4 E's is
consistent with your team, just like you would, by the way, when you were bringing up a new HR policy or product or event or something. You do it for your team.
Yeah. Listen, I know you got to run and speak, but what's your parting piece of advice? And also, where can people connect with you, grab a copy of the book, etc.?
Yes. Well, you can connect with me on LinkedIn, and you can find the book carrystrongproject.com.
Nice.
And wherever books are sold on Amazon. And final parting advice. I think right now where there is this VUCA banny world, think about your own triangle. Think about your own relationship that you have, whether you're in HR and it's what is your role to those individual employees that you're working with, wherever you sit. If you're in a COE or HRBP or within one of the shared services or your manager, but think about your own relationships in that triangle and what are you doing to make them stronger, but also who's part of yours, who's helping to support you, and where are you getting that as a teammate or as a people manager or as HR.
Amazing. This is always fun.
Such a
Thanks
pleasure.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.